Here is a line-by-line explanation for beginners of the IELTS reading passage, when evolution runs backwards, along with meanings of advanced vocabulary words. Title: When evolution runs backwards. Meaning: sometimes evolution, natural change in species over time, doesn't go forward, it can actually go in reverse. Paragraph 1. Evolution isn't supposed to run backwards, yet an increasing number of examples show that it does, and that it can sometimes represent the future of a species. Simple meaning: scientists thought evolution only goes forward. But now we're finding more cases where it goes backward. And sometimes that backward step helps a species survive. Vocabulary: species equals a group of similar living things. Represent equals to show or be a sign of. 2. The description of any animal as an evolutionary throwback is controversial. Simple meaning: calling an animal a throwback, going back to an older form, is a topic people disagree on. Vocabulary: throwback equals return to an earlier condition. Controversial equals causing disagreement or discussion. 3. For the better part of a century, most biologists have been reluctant to use those words. Mindful of a principle of evolution that says, evolution can run backward. Simple meaning: for 100 years, most scientists avoided calling animals throwbacks, because they believed evolution only goes forward. Vocabulary: reluctant equals unwilling. Mindful equals aware or careful about something. Principle equals a basic rule or belief. 4. But as more and more examples come to and modernity enters the scene, that principle simple meaning: as new examples are found and genetics improves. Scientists are changing this belief. Vocabulary: current equals be discovered. Genetics equals heredity. Written equals changed or updated. 5. Not only are evolutionary throwbacks, they are in the march of evolution. Simple meaning: these backwards evolution are real and can even help species forward. Vocabulary: equals progress or ahead. Paragraph 2.6. The technical term for an evolutionary throwback is an atavism, from the Latin atavus, meaning forefather. Simple meaning: scientists call a throwback an atavism, which comes from a Latin word for ancestor. Vocabulary: atavism, term for trait in ancestor. Equals ancestor. 7. It has ugly connotations, thanks largely to Cesare Loso, a 19th century Italian medic who argued that criminals were born not made and could be identified with certain features that were throwbacks to primitive, subhuman. Simple meaning: the word atavism has a bad history because Dr. Rose used to say criminals were born that way. Vocabulary: connotations equals the idea or feeling the word gives. Primitive equals very old or basic. Subhuman equals less than human, offensive term. Paragraph 3.8. While Lombroso was measuring criminals, A Belgian paleontologist called Louis Dollo was studying fossil records and coming to the opposite conclusion. Simple meaning, at the same time. Scientist Dollo studied old fossils and disagreed with Lombroso's ideas. Vocabulary. Paleontologist equals scientist who studies fossils. Fossil records equals history of life shown by fossils. 9. In 1890, he proposed that evolution is reversible, that an organism is able to return, even partially, to a previous state realized in the rank of its ancestors. Simple meaning, Dollo said in 1890 that once a species changes, it goes back to how it used to be. Vocabulary. Irreversible equals be undone. Organism equals a living thing. Paragraph 4. 10. Early 20th century biologists came to a similar conclusion, though they qualified it in terms of probability, stating that there is no reason why evolution cannot run backwards, it is just very unlikely. Simple meaning, scientists in the early 1900s agreed that evolution going backward is possible, but it's very rare. Vocabulary. Qualified equals linear or care. Probability equals how likely something is. Unlikely equals not probable or rare. 11. Answer. The idea of irreversibility in evolution came to be known as Dollo. Simple meaning, this belief that evolution can't go backward became accepted and was named Dollo's law. Vocabulary. Irreversibility equals the state of not being able to go back. Stuck equals stayed or remained accepted. Paragraph 5. 12. If Dollo's law is right, atavisms should occur only very rarely, if at all. Simple meaning, if Dollo's law is true, then atavism should almost happen. Vocabulary. Equals happen. If at all equals maybe not even once. 13. Yet almost since the idea took root, exceptions have been cropping up. Simple meaning, but even after people accepted Dollo's law, examples of throwbacks kept appearing. Vocabulary. Took root equals became accepted or established. Exceptions equals cases that don't crop up, suddenly appearing. 14. In 1919, for example, a humpback whale with a pair of legs over a long, complete with a full set of limb bones, Island, Canada. Simple meaning, in 1919, scientists found a humpback whale with legs over 1 meter long and full bones, near Vancouver Island. Vocabulary. Appendages equals body parts that stick out, like arms or legs. Limb bones equals bones of legs or arms. 15. Explorer Roy Chapman Andrews argued at the time that the whale must be a throwback to a land-living ancestor. Simple meaning, a scientist believed this whale had traits from an old ancestor that lived on land. Vocabulary. Throwback equals return to an earlier form. Ancestor equals a relative from long ago. 16. I can see no other explanation. He wrote in 1921. Simple meaning, he said there was no better reason for this than it being a throwback. Paragraph 6. 17. Since then, so many other examples have been discovered that it no longer makes sense to say that evolution is as good as irreversible. Simple meaning. After that, more throwback examples were found. So we can't say anymore that evolution never goes backwards. Vocabulary. Discovered equals found. Irreversible equals cannot go back or undo. 18. And this poses a puzzle. How can characteristics that disappeared millions of years ago suddenly reappear? Simple meaning. This creates a mystery. How do old traits that vanished long ago come back? Vocabulary. Poses a puzzle equals causes a confusing question. Characteristics equals features or traits. Reappear equals come back again. Paragraph 7. 19. In 1994, Rudolf Raff and colleagues at Indiana University in the USA decided to use genetics to put a number on the probability of evolution going into reverse. Simple meaning. In 1994, scientists used genetics to calculate how likely it is that evolution can go backwards. Vocabulary. Colleagues equals people who work together. Probability equals chance or likelihood. Going into reverse equals moving backward. 20. They reasoned that while some evolutionary changes involve the loss of genes and are therefore irreversible, others may be the result of genes being switched off. Simple meaning. They thought some changes happen when genes are lost, so can't be reversed. But other changes happen when genes are only turned off, and can be turned on again. Vocabulary. Involve equals include or require. Switched off equals turned off or inactive. 21. If these silent genes are somehow switched back on, they argued, long-lost traits could reappear. Simple meaning. If these off genes turn on again, old traits may come back. Vocabulary. Silent genes equals genes that are present, but not active. Traits equals qualities or features. Paragraph 8. 22. Raff's team went on to calculate the likelihood of it happening. Simple meaning. Raff's team continued their work by calculating how likely it is for evolution to go backward. Vocabulary. Calculate equals to figure out using numbers or logic. Likelihood equals how probable or likely something is. 23. Silent genes accumulate random mutations. They reasoned, eventually rendering them useless. Simple meaning. The team thought that unused genes gather random changes, mutations, over time, which makes them stop working. Vocabulary. Accumulate equals collect or build up. Mutations equals changes in genes. Rendering equals making or causing. Useless equals not working or having no use. 24. So how long can a gene survive in a species if it is no longer used? Simple meaning. They asked, how long can a gene stay in a species if no one uses it? 25. The team calculated that there is a good chance of silent genes surviving for up to 6 million years in at least a few individuals in a population, and that some might survive as long as 10 million years. Simple meaning. The scientists found that unused genes might stay in some members of a species for 6 to even 10 million years. Vocabulary. Individuals equals single living beings, people, animals, etc. Closing parenthesis. Population equals a group of the same species living in one place. Paragraph 9. 26. In other words, throwbacks are possible, but only to the relatively recent evolutionary past. Simple meaning. So, atavisms, throwbacks, can happen. But usually from not too long ago in evolution. Vocabulary. Relatively recent equals not very old compared to everything else. Evolutionary past equals earlier stages in a species' development. 27. As a possible example, the team pointed to the mole salamanders of Mexico and California. Simple meaning. The team gave an example, a type of salamander that lives in Mexico and California. 28. Like most amphibians, these begin life in a juvenile, tadpole, state. Then metamorphose into the adult form. Except for one species. The axolotl, which famously lives its entire life as a juvenile. Simple meaning. Most salamanders start as tadpoles and grow into adults. But the axolotl stays like a baby all its life. Vocabulary. Amphibians equals animals like frogs or salamanders that live in water and on land. Juvenile equals young or not fully grown. Metamorphose equals change into a different form. Like a tadpole turning into an adult. Species equals a group of similar animals. 29. The simplest explanation for this is that the axolotl lineage alone lost the ability to metamorphose, while others retained it. Simple meaning. The easiest idea is that only axolotls lost the ability to change into adults. Other salamanders kept that ability. Vocabulary. Lineage equals family history or group of related species. Retained equals kept or held onto. 30. From a detailed analysis of the salamander's family tree. However, it is clear that the other lineages evolved from an ancestor that itself had lost the ability to metamorphose. Simple meaning. But when scientists studied their family history closely, they saw that other salamanders came from a relative that also couldn't metamorphose. Vocabulary. Detailed analysis equals a deep and careful study. Family tree equals chart showing relationships between relatives or species. Ancestor equals a relative from the past. 31. In other words, metamorphosis in mole salamanders is an atavism. Simple meaning. So, the ability to change into adults is a return of an old trait, an atavism. Vocabulary. Metamorphosis equals transformation from one form to another, like tadpole to adult. Atavism equals an old, lost trait coming back. 32. The salamander example fits with Raff's 10 million year time. Simple meaning. This example matches the idea that silent genes can last up to 10 million years. Vocabulary. Time frame equals a period of time for something to happen. Paragraph 10. 33. More recently, however, examples have been reported that break the time limit, suggesting that silent genes may not be the whole story. Simple meaning. In recent times, scientists found examples that don't fit the 10 million year limit. This means there might be more going on than just silent genes. Vocabulary. Break the time limit equals go beyond the expected time. Suggesting equals giving the idea or showing. Silent year. Biologist Gunter Wagner of Yale University reported some work on the evolutionary history of a group of South American lizards called Bachia. Simple meaning. A scientist named Gunter Wagner wrote about a type of lizard called Bachia from South America. It changed changed over time. Vocabulary. Report equals findings. Even equals how changed over time. 35. Many of these simple meaning. These lizards often have very small legs. Some look like snakes. Some have holes on their back leg. Vocabulary. Minuscule. Extremely small. Hind limb equals back legs or back limbs. 36. Other species, however, sport up to 4 toes on the hind limb, but other kinds of baby lizards still up to 4 toes on their legs. Is equals to animals. Sport equals to have used for appearance. 37. The simplest explanation is that the toed lineage never lost their toes. But Wagner begs to differ. Simple meaning here is that it's always toed. But Wagner disagrees. Vocabulary equals family lines or types. Differ equals politely disagrees. 38. According to his analysis of the baby, the toe species re-evolved toes from Tolasansi. What more? Digit long and gay occurred on more than one occasion over 10 millions of years. Simple meaning. Wagner studied their family tree and found that some lizards' toes again had none. This happened more than 1 million years. Vocabulary. Analysis equals close study or examination. Equals develop. Digit equals finger, toe. Occasion equals or time. 10 millions of years equals a very long time. Paragraph 11. 39. So what's going on? One possibility is that these traits are lost and simply reappear. Much the same way that independently arise species, such as dorsal fins of killer whales. Simple. So, what's fins and not closely related? Vocabulary. Traits equals characteristics or features. Independently arise equals appear separate. Unrelated species equals animals obviously connected. Dorsal fins equals fin back of sea animals. 40. Another more intriguing possibility. Simple meaning. A more interesting making code that for millions of years somehow turned. Vocabulary. Intriguing equals interesting and mysterious. Genetic information equals instructions in DNA. Survived equals continued to exist. Reacted equals start working again. 41. These atavistic traits spread through population, affecting birthing evolution. Simple meaning. So again like evolution going backwards. Vocabulary. Advantage equals something helpful. equals became effective equals in a successful or practical way. Reversing equals backward. Final paragraph, 42. But if silent genes degrade within 6 million years, how can long-lost traits be reactivated over longer timescales? Simple meaning, but if unused genes break down after 6 to 10 million years, how can traits from longer ago still come back? Vocabulary. Degrade equals break down or become. Reactivated equals turned back on. Timescales equals periods of time. 43. The answer may lie in the womb. Simple meaning, the explanation might come from what happens to animals before birth. Vocabulary. Womb equals the organ in female babies grow before birth. 44. Early embryos of many species develop ancestral features. Simple meaning, when animals are just starting to grow, as embryos, they often show traits from their ancestors. Vocabulary. Embryos equals very young form of an animal before it is born or hatched. Ancestral features equals traits from long ago ancestors. 45. Embryos. For example, sprout hind limb buds. For example, baby snakes in the womb start to grow. Vocabulary. To grow. Hind limb buds equals early form of back legs. 46. Later in development these features disappear, thanks to developmental programs that say, lose the leg. Simple meaning, later. Those legs go away because the body's instructions tell it to remove them. Vocabulary. Developmental programs equals genetic instructions for how a body should grow. Disappear equals go away. 47. If for any reason this does not happen, the ancestral feature may not disappear, leaving metaphysical meaning. But if those instructions fail, the old trait, like the leg, might stay, causing a throwback. Vocabulary. Ancestral feature equals trait from long ago ancestor. Atavism equals return of a trait from the past.